Saturday morning, it's time for the Experts Program. We kick things off with Luis Alvarez, the CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group. Good morning, Luis.
Good morning, Mark. How are you today?
Doing pretty good. So we want to talk about Ring, and this is the that surveillance doorbell or security doorbell, for lack of a better term, but it's a video doorbell system that's hooked up to your internet, and it will allow you, when somebody comes on your porch, it can ping you, pick up your phone, go to the app, open it, and you can not only see who is on your porch, you can talk to them as well. And, it could be the delivery man, or it could be somebody who's a porch pirate that wants to steal what the delivery man just dropped off, right?
Exactly. And it's becoming very popular. Ring started as an independent company, and then about a year and a half ago, they were acquired by Amazon. So now they're part of the Amazon family, if you will, and they have proliferated throughout the country as more and more people have decided to install it. It's a relatively inexpensive thing. It's only $125 or so. Mm-hmm. But like that, it gives you access to your doorbell when somebody either comes near the door and you set it up for proximity detection, or if somebody rings the doorbell, you can actually see who's there and decide whether you want to let them in or talk to them or whatever else you want to do. So it's very handy, but now it's being used as a law enforcement tool because of its proliferation, and it's a new thing that Amazon set up called Ring Neighborhoods. And what it lets people do who own the Ring is set up, opt in to be available to law enforcement if they ever have a crime in your area that they need video to either solve or verify. And you can participate. Think of it as something of a virtual neighborhood watch.
Right. So they might come to you and say, Mr. Alvarez, the home across the street was burglarized, and we noticed that you have one of these Ring doorbell systems, the video surveillance. Would you mind sharing the video with us so we can see if the perp walked into the field of whatever your camera is catching? Because not only will these cameras pick up what is on your doorstep, but they can actually see out a little bit. And I would imagine that you can buy better quality cameras with this system and probably even put in like a 4K camera.
Yeah, so these are all 4K cameras. They all upload video to the cloud, and it's stored in the cloud for a predetermined period of time. And you got it exactly right. This is a way for law enforcement to say there was a crime committed in your neighborhood or near your neighborhood, and we would like to access your video in order to see if there's something there that can help us solve that crime or put somebody away. So a lot of people have actually participated in this. There's over 400 law enforcement agencies throughout the United States that have opted into this system. None in our local area, however. There's a portal that Ring maintains that you can go check and see if who is participating, and the closest law enforcement agencies to us are up in San Jose and over in Fresno. So there's nobody in the Monterey, Salinas area that is currently participating. Mm-hmm. But as this becomes more widely distributed, you're going to see more and more law enforcement agencies participate because it's such an easy thing to do. And, who doesn't want to help solve a crime, right, at the end of the day? But there is something of a downside, because once you make that video available to law enforcement, then they can do whatever they want to it. So you don't have any sort of exclusive rights to say, well, you can only use it to solve this one particular problem, and if you can't, then it's not going to be, it can't be used for anything else. Mm-hmm. So if they have to catch another crime happening, then they can use that video in that crime. So it's one of those things where on the surface it sounds like a really good idea and something that as a public citizen you would want to participate in, but there's a little bit of an issue at the back end.
Well, it's the devil in the details, as always is the case on something like this. And I am so reminded, there's a lot of things that are coming to mind right now. I'll try and unpack them a little bit at a time for you. But this is no different than in a situation where, let's go back to the Boston Marathon bombing. One of the ways that the police and the federal authorities gathered evidence, a number of stores had video cameras, had them outside, and they were able to, or ones that were inside the stores that were looking out, and in the particular area where the explosion was, they have video of that. There's also video of much of the route through that particular downtown area, and all the agencies were looking at that, and it was a way of helping them kind of get their evidence together and identify suspects. So there can be a real public benefit to that. On the other hand, Luis, you and I are both very familiar with the Gene Hackman, Will Smith movie from about 15 years ago or 20 years ago called Enemy of the State, where every single business had surveillance cameras inside of them. And it wasn't an option that the businesses would, hey, Mr. Clothing Store, would you mind sharing your internal video with us? It was like a mandatory government thing. You had to give it over. And they were using it. And at first you say, well, it's great if we're going to catch criminals. But the problem, and what a lot of privacy advocates and civil rights advocates, problem that they have with this is anything that can be used can be abused.
Yep. And when you provide law enforcement with this very powerful tool where they can essentially get access to millions of cameras deployed across the country, what's to say if at the federal level or the state level somebody introduces legislation to say, well, rather than this being something that you have to opt into, this is going to be a mandatory thing,
or you have to opt out.
Yeah, you have to opt out.
And we're going to keep a record of all the people that opt out, by the way.
Yeah. And we'll come knocking at your door.
And all the names of the people that are opting out, you're at the top of the list. The people that participate quietly, we don't care about them, but we care about you.
Yep.
And we're going to have a conversation one of these days.
Well, and as you pointed out, more and more cameras are being deployed every day. One of our fastest growing divisions within our company is our surveillance systems, where more businesses are looking at video surveillance as a way to deter crime or to be able to solve things that happen within their environment or prevent things from happening. And all that video is just accumulated and available for use if somebody wants to make use of it.
Louis, I'm reminded of the fact that there's a guy who has an electronic parts store over on the Monterey Peninsula. And I was talking to him one time, just talking business, right? He just mentioned to me, he said, if you think I make a living selling diodes and resistors, there's no way I can sell enough of these things in this market to feed my family. He said, my main business is video surveillance, putting in those systems everywhere. I'm able to keep this store open and have these parts for you to buy because I'm doing really well with this other part of the business. That's what makes this inventory that hardly ever moves, like, these diodes that sell for 20 of them for $1, and maybe I sell like 10 of them in a month. Well, the only thing that allows me to stock that is the fact that I'm selling these video surveillance systems over here.
Yeah, and that unfortunately is the case for a lot of folks in the industry that are finding themselves having this lucrative opportunity to deploy surveillance systems. But, just like we talked about, in a world where you are on camera 7x24 everywhere that you go, it really is a scary proposition. The idea that you can be tracked from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep on somebody's camera, someplace, wherever you go. And in one way, it's gratifying to know that we can solve more crimes using video surveillance, but in another way, it's kind of a scary proposition.
Certainly is. Absolutely. All right. Our guest has been Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group. Anything more you want to add about this before we wrap up?
Well, if you're an owner of a Ring camera system, then you might want to check online, log into your account, and make sure that you are not opted in accidentally. Or if you do want to opt in, if you feel like this is a good program, then by all means do so. But at least you want to be informed in making that decision.
Sounds good. All right. Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, has been our guest today. Online, it's alvareztg.com. @AlvarezTG is the Twitter handle. And Louis, the toll-free number for the I-Team.
Give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326.